Welcome back to Inside Out Precision, guys. As promised, I'm going to be reviewing the new PSE Evo NXT 33 today. So if you caught last week's review on the 31, some of this information might be a little bit redundant, but there are, some different specs on this bow that I think you guys might really like. Oh yeah. So we're going to dive right in, starting with the technical side of things first. So as the name would suggest, this bow is 33 inches axle to axle. This actually has a 7-inch brace height. So, for a hunting bow, it's definitely a little larger than what I would consider your average bow. Most are going to be 6 to 6.5. And because of that 7-inch brace height, it comes in a little bit slower of an IBO speed. So this is coming in at 322, whereas the Evo 31 or the NXT 31 was 329. But that bow seemed to hold really, really true, if not kind of overperform from what its speed rating was. So I'm expecting all these speeds to come in really, really close to being about 5 to 7 feet a second slower than what all the speeds were on the 31. It comes in at a mass weight of 4.5 pounds. The draw length on this is really cool though. This bow will go from, I believe, 26.5. Let me double check that. Yeah, 26.5 all the way out to 32. So for you long draw guys who still want a little bit shorter axle to axle bow, you don't need to go to a 35-inch bow to get a 32-inch draw length. This cam can do it for you. It still has all of the same cam system as the Evolve series had in the past, so it's still the Evolve cam system. This particular one is in the high let-off module, so I can adjust the module between 80 and 90%. For today's speed test, I'm going to be doing it at 80%. I've shot it with both, and there's only about a 1 to 2 foot a second difference between the 80 and 90%. So very minimal speed difference, but keep that in mind when you're watching the chronograph test. Some of the things that they've done differently from years past is this year they lengthened out the riser pretty significantly. So this riser is a couple inches longer than last year's Evoke series. And what that does for you is it helps you maintain a shorter axle to axle while still getting a really stable hold. So generally, longer axle to axle bows hold better because the riser is longer, and the longer riser is really what gives you a lot of stability. That's why you see a lot of 37 to 40-inch bows for target models. So this bow behaves and aims a little bit longer than what it actually is. And because of that longer riser, they've increased the limb angle to a little more parallel limb. And that does a couple things. One, it makes the vibration after the shot significantly lower. So this bow has a lot less hand shock, in my opinion, than last year's models. And that's because when you get the limbs a little more parallel, rather than jumping forward when the limbs deflex, that energy is going up and down out of the riser. So it takes that hand shock away from coming down into the riser. So the bow doesn't want to jump at all. While this review is as unbiased and by the numbers as it can be, I've shot the Evoke and this side by side, and this definitely has less hand shock. Another thing they've done this year is they're making this come with a synthetic grip here. So to me, it's very reminiscent of the Hoyt grips. It's a little bit wider. I've always liked the feel of PSE's grips, but some guys would complain that they didn't like grabbing an ice cold riser in the late season. So they give you this synthetic option. You can take it off if you still want the real skinny, just tournament style feel in your grip, but at least you have the option now to put this on there. A couple other cool things they've done are with their stabilizer mounts here. So you've got your traditional one just right below the grip, and you've got a lower one down here. And what that's going to do for you is it lowers the mass, the center of mass of the bow at full draw, lowers that center of gravity. And you may not notice a huge difference without any gear on it, but when you put an arrow or a quiver full of arrows on here, if you got a 6, some guys carry an 8 arrow quiver. Some guys will say that it really changes the way their bow feels. It starts feeling a lot more top heavy because you got the hood, all your broadheads, and 8 arrows up here on your bow. So by dropping that stabilizer down to the lower mount, it should balance that out a little better. You've also got the rear stabilizer mount here for those of you who like to run back bars, which is really nice. One thing that I would have liked to see on the rear mount is for them to actually put a bushing around there instead of just threading the riser. You know, if you're taking it on and off, sometimes just threaded risers will have a tendency to strip out over time, and that's not just a PSE thing, that's any bow with just a threaded riser like that. It does look like they coated it with some aluminum in there, or maybe it's just unfinished, but you know, if you're gonna set one up on here, I'd recommend, you know, putting a bracket on with a quick disconnect so that you're not pulling it on and off, getting it in and out of your case, and that should never be an issue. But that's really cool, being able to, you know, play around with where your stabilizer is, really customize how that bow aims and how that bow feels at full draw. Personally, I think it's a great looking bow. You know, that's a personal opinion, but I think it's a really sharp looking bow. This particular one is in the Kuyu Verde, but they come in a lot of different camos. I think by far and away in the West, the most popular is going to be the First Lite Fusion this year, but it's a really nice finish on here. You know, I don't see any weird little seams or spots that they missed or overlapped, or, you know, no blemishes basically. It's a really, really good looking bow. Still has the wedge lock limb pockets, which I think are some of the best in the industry. Zero play in these things, really proven system, and I really, really like it. When it comes to tuning this bow, you have a lot of options. So you may notice, you know, it doesn't have any split yokes on it like a Hoyt does, or a lot of other bows that, you know, have a split yoke on it. So I can't lean that cam to alleviate a right or left tear, but what I can do is use these little spacers right here. See if I can focus on that. So that looks like one big spacer, but it's actually 3 smaller ones put together on one side and then one small one on the other side. So what I can do is sort of like a Matthews top hat system, where I can change the size of the spacers and push that cam right or left. I can swap, you know, just 1 or 2 of these spacers over on top and bottom here, and really, really fine tune my my left-right tear through paper without ever having to move the rest. Now, if you happen to be someone who maybe puts a lot of torque in the riser, or you're a new shooter and your grip isn't quite right, and you're still getting a right or left tear, you have another option in the cable slide here. So if you can see where it comes into the riser, there's a little set screw right here, and if I loosen that, I can run this cable slide in or out. And again, what that's going to do is either reduce or increase torque or pull on this cam and on this limb, which effectively is going to alleviate a right or left tear. So for example, on this right-handed bow, if I was still ripping a little bit tear right and I had both cams pushed over to the right, I could try moving that out a little bit, and that would probably alleviate it. Conversely, if I was going the other way, I could move it into the left. Now you want to be careful you don't get it too close, because you might get contact with your vanes on your cables there, but you've got quite a bit of room here. You know, I really like different tuning options like that on bows, because it makes it so I don't have to take my rest out of center shot. You know, with today's technology, I think there's no reason that you should ever have to move your rest out of center shot. Personally, I hate it when I'm aiming and my arrow's pointed at the target, but I can see my stabilizer is pointed off to the side. I don't think it really affects how the bow shoots, but it's just a visual thing for me. I like everything just right down the middle. So it's a really cool system there. You know, I've shot this bow a little bit. Granted, it's right-handed and I'm left-handed, but it has an incredibly solid back wall. It's quieter than the previous year's models, and it is definitely smoother. You know, I've shot them side by side, and so it's not just a personal opinion. I mean, it's a fact. It's definitely smoother. Some people have been a little put off by the only 322 IBO speed, but I think these bows actually hold true to their rating. Whereas, I'm not going to name any names or companies, but there's a lot of companies out there that claim their bows are going 350 or 355, and really they don't hit anywhere close to that, even with, you know, a 350 grain arrow and all the IBO specs. You know, they shoot closer to what a bow that's rated at, like, you know, 335 actually shoots. So I don't think there's any governing body that actually inspects these and checks to make sure they're doing that. So I think some companies just slap on a really high speed rating to bump sales. You know, they didn't do that with this. And on the 31 that I shot last week, I was really, really surprised at how true to spec it was. Like, I wasn't expecting the speeds I got out of it, so I'm hoping that this is the same. Again, it's 7 feet a second slower on its IBO rating than the 31. I'm expecting the speeds to pretty much reflect that, but we'll see. One thing that's cool about this bow being at 33 inches, if you're looking for a great all-around bow, you know, you do some competitive 3D and target shooting in the off season, and then you want a bow you can slap your hunting gear on and go do that, you know, this bow will aim, and with a 7-inch brace height, it's gonna be really forgiving. So you're gonna be able to shoot targets with it really well, as well go, you know, put an arrow through a buck or a bull or whatever it is you're chasing. So I think this is a really cool bow from PSE. I'm gonna go set up the chronograph and run it through that, and we'll see what this does by the numbers. All right, guys, so got the bow, or got the chronograph all set up. Again, this first test is gonna be done at 30 inches, 70 pounds, and this is with the 80% let off. Again, add maybe 1 to 3 feet a second for every speed you see if you're gonna, or decrease 1 to 3 feet a second for every speed you see if you're gonna shoot it at 90% let off. I kind of zoomed in on the chronograph a little bit, so I might be a little out of focus, but this first arrow is gonna be 501 grains. And again, I'm shooting this right-handed as a lefty, so please save all of your form sucks comments, because I know it does right-handed. So here we go, 501 grains, 70 pounds, 30 inches. .269, that's pretty darn good. 269, this is gonna be a 272 grain arrow, or sorry, 472 grain arrow. .276, so that's definitely moving. Like I said, this bow's not a speed demon by any means, but for being a 7-inch brace height and 33 inches axle to axle and all that, I mean, that's really decent speed, and it's gonna be a really forgiving bow. So the next arrow, this is a 458 grain arrow, probably the most common hunting weight. Woo, big jump there. So from a 472 grain arrow to a 458 grain arrow, that's 291. So almost 20 feet a second. This next arrow is going to be a 420 grain arrow. It's actually 419, but we'll call it 420. Huh, not much of a difference there. Gave me the same speed. That's kind of surprising. I might shoot that one again just to double check. This last one is a 376 grain arrow, so like a really light 3D arrow. .309, so a big jump there. I'm gonna grab that 420 arrow again and see if it gives me the same speed. All right. This is the redo of the 420. Gave me 290 last time. Okay, that's more like it. 301 with a 420. So that's really impressive. You know, with a 30 inches, 7-inch brace height on that, you know, getting over 300 feet a second on a 420 grain arrow is pretty impressive. And being in the, you know, 280s, 290s with a good heavy hunting arrow, I really like that. So I'm gonna go set this at 28 inches. Gonna leave the let off where it's at, but set it at 28 inches and shoot those same arrows. So give me just a sec and I'll be right back. All right, so just changed the mods. This is now 28 inches. So again, 70 pounds out of the PSE Evo NXT 33, 28 inch draw. We're gonna do the same arrows. So first one's gonna be a 501 grain arrow. .250, pretty much what I was expecting with that heavy of an arrow at that draw length. Next one's gonna be a 472 grain arrow. .261. Next is going to be a 458 grain arrow. Give me the same speed, which is kind of surprising. I mean, granted, that's only, I mean, it's only a 10 or 11 grain difference. But that shows it's pretty efficient at that speed in terms of, you know, throwing a heavier arrow like that. There's not a huge gap with the lighter arrow. So this is a 420 grain arrow. .270, so pretty good jump there. And then here we have a 376 grain arrow. .288. So right about what I was expecting at the shorter draw lengths. You know, this bow, it's not a speed demon. I definitely think after shooting that, you know, if your draw length is 29 to 31, 32, I think the 33 is definitely going to be the more popular option. If you got a little bit shorter draw length, you know, if you haven't seen the review on the 31, the speeds were really impressive at 28 inches. So I hope that gives you kind of an idea, you know, on the speeds here. Most people are going to be shooting an arrow somewhere in that span that I just shot. So if you get a chance, you're looking for a new bow, go down to your PSE dealer and try some of these out. These Evo NXTs are awesome. We're still waiting on the 35 and the new Mach 1, which is our new carbon bow. I did get to shoot the Mach 1. The rep brought by the Mach 1. Granted, it was a 60 pounder, but I think you guys are really gonna like it. I'm really excited to do that review. They made some major improvements from last year. So again, I hope this gives you kind of a by the numbers review. I try to keep any personal opinions out of it, but I can tell you that this bow is smooth. It's kind of hard to tell on film, but it is really quiet, especially with those heavier arrows. And I think people are really gonna enjoy shooting it. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. The better we do, you know, the more content we can bring you guys. And I keep getting questions on the Amazon links for the hunting gear that I posted. All the links are in the description of I think almost every video on our YouTube channel. So if you're looking for some new clothes or new gear, you can click on that link. Amazon gives us a kickback if you buy it through them using our link. So if you want to support the channel, want some new gear, you can kill two birds with one stone. So thanks for watching. Until next time, keep it in the middle, and remember, precision is a decision.